everybody hear me okay with this? I'm told that the microphone works best on this half of the room, so there's a couple seats left over here if you need to hear it better. But I'd like to start by saying good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2015 State of the Village Address. I'm Village Manager Jason Slowinski. We have a great program for you this evening, and we think you'll find it both interesting and informative. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to Executive Director Matt Womack, the ELA Library, for hosting us this evening. They've been very gracious in allowing us use of this facility, and hopefully it's a bit more comfortable for you here in this room tonight. I'd also like to make some introductions. We have several members of the Lake Zurich Village Board here today in attendance. Please welcome Trustee Jim Bedoin. Trustee John Shaw is here. And our village clerk, Kathleen Johnson, is in the back. We also have many of our key village staff members here tonight. They're in the back of the room. Please give a little wave when I call your name so people know who you are. Assistant Manager Roy Witherow. Police Chief Steve Husak. By the way, Chief Husak is new to the village this year, so if you haven't had a chance to meet him, please see him afterwards. Fire Chief Dave Wheelock. Finance Director Jody Hartman. Community Services Director Mike Earl. Our Innovation Director, Michael Dubner, Recreation Manager, Bonnie Caputo, and our Building and Zoning Manager, Dan Peterson. We also have Management Analyst Kyle Cordell from my office, and he does a lot of behind-the-scenes work. If you ever need anything from my office, you'll likely be talking to him at some point. All of those folks that I mentioned are here today, available to meet with you after this program. So if you have a service question or you want to just say hi, please feel free to introduce yourselves after we're done here. Also, at the end of our prepared remarks, tonight we'll allow as much time as we can for question and answer with the audience. So we have a few microphones that will be coming around later in the program. If you're listening, think of a question as we're going along, feel free to keep it in mind and we'll do our best to answer later on. This State of the Village program was developed with a few things in mind. Reviewing our accomplishments from the past year, and informing you of where our energy is being spent today, things we're working on, and looking forward to the year ahead. Before I introduce the mayor, who will talk about some really cool things we've been working on, I'd like to spend a few minutes highlighting some of our past accomplishments and successes. As you entered the room tonight, you might have grabbed a copy of this document here. This is our 2014 annual report. I think I've been told they're all out in the back, so if you can't find it, it'll be on our website if you don't have one tonight. But similar to what a private corporation might do, we have developed this report and we offer it to the village board, as our board of directors, and you, the community, as our shareholders, as a means to report on past year's accomplishments. In the spirit of transparency, we want you to know some of the benchmarks that have defined our year. So within this report, you will find key community and government information, highlights of the year's accomplishments, and an overview of some of our operational statistics. Please take a copy home with you, read it, digest it. I think you'll find it worth the read. And for those watching at home, tape delayed or online, you will find a copy of the 2014 annual report on our website, lakezurich.org. I think it's important to start with our goals. What are we working towards? Well, we want Lake Zurich to be the place in Lake County to live, to work, and to play. And in 2014, in order to get there, we started down a 5-year path focusing on 5 strategic priority areas. They are financial sustainability, ensuring the long-term fiscal health of our village, development, working to bring responsible development to the village. Infrastructure, providing for reliable infrastructure for residents and businesses. Service sustainability, ensuring that our services are efficient and effective and come at a cost that we can afford. And then finally, civic engagement, doing what we're doing right here tonight, providing for increased communication with the community, working on transparency and further citizen involvement. These are the goals that the mayor and the village board have tasked us as staff with to advance over the next 5 years. And we're closing in on completion of year 1, and I think we've made some great progress. We've done more to advance financial sustainability in 2014 than in the past several years. We started the year with a AAA bond rating, which only 2% of governments in the state of Illinois have. This rating gives outside observers confidence in investing in Lake Zurich. And it means that the village will have lower borrowing costs for necessary infrastructure projects. We ended 2014 with a TIF district extension for our downtown TIF district. But more on this later, but I want to point out at this point that it goes a long way in helping us to avoid the fiscal cliff associated with downtown TIF debt. Our revenues are improving, but more importantly, our expenditures have been fine-tuned to become strategic in nature. We look to make sure that we are spending money on expenditures that support the priority areas that I've outlined earlier. All of this has helped us become a much more financially strong organization than we have in the past decade. And very soon, I will be delivering a proposed budget to the village board for their consideration in April that for the first time in several years will show a balanced general fund without the need for significant cuts. It is surely another sign that we are on the right track. Of course, then there are these people. If you can't see that, that's the Illinois General Assembly. And the state of Illinois has the greatest likelihood of upsetting the near-term financial sustainability of Lake Zurich than any other foreseeable entity or event. Something we have to be mindful of. The state budget that was recently released by the governor calls for a 50% reduction in the income tax received by Illinois cities. For decades, the state of Illinois has shared income tax with cities, and it has become a revenue that cities across the state have relied on to fund critical operations. This is important because under the current proposal, Lake Zurich would stand to lose approximately $1 million in annual revenue. Let me say that again. Lake Zurich would lose $1 million in annual revenue. That's a huge number for us. This is revenue that goes to support police, fire, public works, all of our critical operations. And I think it is important to note here tonight that while we have worked very hard to become more financially strong, we can't always control what happens to us, especially from Springfield. We focused on this past year on development quite a bit. In 2014, the village saw an increase in permit activity to 2,884 permits for the year, a 136% increase since 2008. We experienced $47 million in new construction activity in the village in 2014. That's up over $20 million from the year before. And if that doesn't convince you that Lake Zurich is a prime location for business and development, we welcomed 38 new businesses to town in 2014. Mayor Poynton will have much more on that in a couple of minutes. Infrastructure is a key part of our 5-year plan. It keeps Lake Zurich running. It keeps us competitive. in the market and keeps this village a great place to live. In 2014, we evaluated the 80 miles of streets we have in our village in a pavement management plan. And by the way, 41 of the 80 miles have been built in the last 30 years. We found overall that 80%, after this evaluation, we found that 80% of our streets have a rating of satisfactory, good, or excellent. And the pavement management plan provides some specific recommendations on maintaining all of our streets at an adequate level in the future. Last year, we invested $1.4 million in our annual road resurfacing program. And much of that was focused in the industrial park, where we continue to see new growth and development. We will increase funding for road surfacing in 2015 to $2 million. We also invested an additional $160,000 in stabilization projects in the village to prevent against washouts and heavy rain events. Good infrastructure is the key to quality of life in Lake Zurich and continued economic development success. Service sustainability is where the rubber meets the road. Our goal is, as our mission states, to provide our residents and businesses with exceptional quality services. The delivery of quality services is your return on investment for being part of the Lake Zurich community, as the services we deliver work to improve our quality of life. In 2014, we have placed a greater focus on innovation in government. We continue to work hard in reviewing our operations and making sure that they're both efficient and their overall effectiveness is strong. Now, I mentioned innovation. I wanted to share one example with you, as it was recognized recently by the Lake County Municipal League for its innovative use. We had some flooding rains in the summer of 2013, and the village sought to work with the residents of the area and improve our emergency response to flooding conditions. This is in Cedar Creek neighborhood. We developed this device you see here. We call it our early warning system. It is solar powered. It reads water levels in this critical detention facility and alerts the village to flooding conditions when they are imminent, any time of day or night. This allows us to mobilize our emergency response operations faster and prior to flooding conditions impacting homes. Service sustainability has been a key goal throughout our organization, and we've made quite a bit of progress this past year. In Parks and Recreation, all of our recreation programs have been reviewed, have been analyzed, and are now self-supporting, meaning that their revenues exceed the direct expenditures related to the program. That wasn't true just a few years ago. One of our highlights of this past year was opening the new Lakeside Lookout Playground at Paulus Park, a picture that you see up on the screen. If you haven't been there, it is definitely worth a visit. It's a really neat playground for kids, and the setting couldn't be better overlooking the lake. In 2014, we engaged a consultant to do an independent review of our fire department. Policies, procedures, practices, operations were all reviewed. 100-page report was developed with several recommendations which will help us focus our energy and our efforts moving forward. But one of the main findings of the report was that our fire department operates very efficiently as compared to other departments in this area, in our region, and in the state of Illinois. In 2014, we saw call volume increase in the fire department, both in terms of fire and EMS calls. And despite that trend, our response times have gone down. In fact, in some cases, they are a full minute better than they were 3 years ago. The chart on the screen is in the annual report document, so if you want to review it in more detail, that's where you can find it. Lake Zurich also continues to be a safe place to live, work, and play. Our crime statistics routinely are below the national and state averages. That credit goes to the Lake Zurich Police Department, which continues to keep us safe. In 2014, the department instituted a new bicycle safety program, whereby officers would issue citations to kids that practiced safe bicycle habits such as wearing a helmet. All children issued citations were then entered into a drawing for a new bicycle. And I know we had one excited lucky winner that got a new bike last fall and was presented to it and recognized by the village board. We've also introduced several service enhancements this past year that have saved money for village residents. We recently renegotiated our waste management and refuse and recycling contract with Waste Management, which will save our residents 11 to 22% on their refuse collection fees. The past 3 years, we've also developed a municipal electric aggregation program, which has collectively over that time saved Lake Zurich residents nearly $2 million. Finally, a word on civic engagement. In Lake Zurich, we value our shareholders. And in order to advance the goal of civic engagement, we've worked very hard this past year to improve our communications, to improve the level of transparency with which we operate, and to improve our engagement with the community. We introduced a new website, which has many new user-friendly features. You can find on that website a transparency page, which is still under development, but will include various contracts, agreements, vendor information, etc. They'll all be located in one easy-to-access location on the website. Community events are another way we have enhanced civic engagement. Special events provide a way for our community to come together and share in the spirit and the collective pride that defines Lake Zurich. Several new special events have been introduced in the past 2 years, including Rock the Block and the Farmers Market, which is during the summer on Friday afternoons. In 2014, we introduced the Craft Beer Festival, which was a big hit, drawing thousands to Paul's Park in October. And I know we just had an event over this past weekend. How many of you jumped in Icy Lake Zurich? Anybody? We had one who watched. He was gonna, we had one who watched and one who said next year. Of course, civic engagement wouldn't be complete without a giant leap into technology and social media. The village actively posts on Facebook and Twitter, for those of you who follow that. In fact, our Facebook likes, people who like what we put out on Facebook, has jumped 136% from 2013 to 2014. We've also developed an e-newsletter that we call Benchmarks, and we issued 43 times this past year. We used to have a newsletter that we put out that residents received only 4 times throughout the year. This newsletter will give you the latest information and almost on a real-time basis. As we have things, we pump them out so that you understand what's going on with village government. If you don't receive Benchmarks, I strongly suggest that you sign up for it. Go to the village website, click on the tab, enter your email address, or you can stop in the back and sign up for it tonight before you leave. It's really very simple, and we only send out the information you're going to want to know. I'm excited to continue our work in advancing the village board's agenda in 2015. Please know that you, our shareholders, have my personal commitment to continue hard work and good work on behalf of residents and businesses in Lake Zurich. I appreciate your attention to this point. To take us the rest of the way, though, please join me in welcoming to the podium Mayor of Lake Zurich, Tom Point.
Pretty. All right, I gotta figure out how to do this. He was smarter than me. I printed my slides out this way, and he printed his out this way, so I have to fight with the podium while I'm doing this tonight. I get to do economic development. It's one of the key components of our strategic plan. Economic development is a priority in 2014 and 2015. Goal number 2 of our strategic plan being development, expanding the economic base of the village by incorporating the current multitude of opportunities, which includes downtown revitalization, Route 22 and Route 12 and Route 22 business corridors, and professional partnerships with the business community in order to further establish and expand Lake Zurich as the regional and economic hub of Lake County. I want to take 1 minute and talk about where we were. One page, one slide. Talk about the past. It is what it is. It was what it was. We learned from it and we move forward. Our past economic strategy, well, we had very little. We had multiple failed attempts and bad deals. We purchased properties that are now valued at 20 to 30% of purchase price. We have missing teeth as far as our properties downtown are concerned. We have properties available to develop that are undersized. And we have a bunch of impediments to success that will be difficult to overcome. Where we are today. Told you this was going to be sloppy. We've developed new strategies with new energy. We put together a moving Lake Zurich forward 6-point downtown action plan that we didn't have before. That action plan includes to enhance the overall appearance of downtown, develop and promote special events, engage in comprehensive marketing strategies, focus on-site specific redevelopment prospects, and strengthen the overall long-term fiscal outlook of the downtown TIF, and pay attention to the intangible. One of the other strategies that we incorporated was to include expanding our reach to include closer relationships with the Lake County partners, and our relationship with Lake County partners has brought us a special event, which you'll see, I think, in June, called Color Vibe, which is going to be a fun 5K race around the lake. You can get more information of it online at the Park Department website. It's also an expanded presence at the International Council of Shopping Centers show in an attempt to expand our visibility in that industry with the ICSC show in Chicago. We sense that we have created a new energy level in Lake Zurich with an increased emphasis on customer service. We're combining the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals to streamline processes and make it easier to do business in Lake Zurich for businesses and for residents. We've increased and opened the lines of communication at community services and village hall. We have an emphasis on business friendly, and we are one step closer to a one-shop stop, as building and zoning and public works are now housed together. I don't know if many of you, well, I do know that many of you weren't here last week, but last week we had a community services open house at the public works facility for the first time ever. We got a few people to show up, and I think that the next time we're going to do it at happy hour with cocktails. So, but it was the first time we did that, just like this is the first time that we're doing this. So the next time we do the community services open house, you can come to the community services facility, have all your questions answered, permitting questions, building questions, whatever it has to do with it. We put together an economic toolbox. Economic incentives the village will consider, sales tax sharing arrangements. We already do some of that with our neighbors at Hawthorne Woods and Killdeer. Without these arrangements, it's unlikely that some of the properties would have been developed. We also have property tax and abatements and reimbursements. We got Midwest Motors to come to Lake Zurich using such an arrangement. We also have a TIF assistance program. We've used that with DePiro's, with the art school. If you take a look at DePiro's, you'll see that that was the combination of their money and our TIF money that made that whole corner look a whole lot better. As a result of the state legislature approving our requested TIF extension, and I want to take a second here and thanks to Senator Pam Althoff Representative Ed Sullivan, as well as our TIF attorney Kathleen Orr, Scott Euler, Jason, and myself, we bird dogged this thing to get our TIF extension passed by the state. And after a long delay with some of our taxing partners, they did their due diligence and we did ours, and we finally got it done, and that was a big success. We now have two downtown TIF districts in play. Boundaries aren't any bigger. We didn't add any properties, we took some properties out. The TIF extension will allow us, the village, to restructure our debt and will save the general fund cash flow of $700,000 to $1 million annually. TIF 1 and TIF 2 have 23 years for development. The TIF 2 baseline EAV has been reset to today's market value. On the right page here. There had literally been no marketing plans for downtown, so we created one. We took the opportunity to pick what we call the low-hanging fruit. We placed for sale and development signs on village-owned properties. We listed properties for sale, village-owned properties for sale on websites. We had multiple meetings with commercial real estate brokers, both in town and out of town. We listed properties on the village website. We demolished vacant buildings that had no repurposed value. And I hope you agree that downtown, even though we don't have a lot of development going, looks better this way than it did the other way. We're starting to see the benefits. We're starting to see the benefits of our efforts. The Somerset Townhomes we began construction of the remaining 19 units of the Somerset Townhome development, which sat unfinished for over 6 years. Block A development. Recently, the village board recently approved a memo of understanding with Toll Brothers excuse me, to redevelop Block A. Block A represents key development opportunity in downtown Lake Zurich and has been vacant for many years. Block C development. We're working with the same developer to redevelop Block C at the corner of Old Rand and Main, which was made possible by demolition of vacant buildings at this corner. This is also part of our downtown strategy. We continue to work with the owner of 7 acres at Route 22 and Old Rand Road near downtown for new development. That's the property at the corner of kitty corner from the library. That property's been vacant over 9 years, and we continue to enter into talks with the owner of that property. We've also had the redevelopment agreement that I previously spoke about with DePiro's Restaurant. And I think you can tell that that's a much better look than we had before. We helped them tear down the building and pave the parking lot, and we share the parking space with them. I'd like to talk about a little bit about some of our economic development successes. We have, the first one is a Pathway Senior Living Center, recently approved for 120 unit supported living facility with the spring 2015 construction. The long vacant Aspen Grill has been repurposed into a 9,000 square foot, 4-unit commercial building. ATI Physical Fitness is open and JJ Twigs is doing an interior build-out. The vacant land at Route 12 and 22 has been developed into a 2-unit building with a vitamin shop and Sleepy's mattress. There's another pad there that's going to be developed, and another building will be there hopefully shortly. Mariano's development opened in 2014 at Route 22 in Quentin. McDonald's and PNC Bank also opened in 2014. Expansion plans continue, most recently with Just Tires. Commercial developments open for construction started in 2014. Direct Buy, 7,028 square feet. Sports Authority, a new store, 13,000 square feet. Beezer's Bungalow, which, by the way, I just found myself the other day, and it's a neat little place over there near Cole. The Pizza Factory of Lake Zurich just opened up. We actually have with Jewel Osco opening up earlier this year, or earlier in 2014, we saved ourselves an empty building at the Kmart building. Sushi Kushi opened up just a few months ago. Pulsation Yoga opened up in August, and the House of Betty Jane, and then American Sail, which opened up last year. All plus businesses for our community. Giordano's, 2,500 square feet. Lake Zurich Family Martial Arts, redeveloped and redone to expand their facility. El Jardín Mexican Restaurant took over an empty building, and Bobber's Bar and Grill opened up where Eng's used to be. We also had numerous successes in the industrial park in 2014. We must be doing something right as we have lured businesses from other communities to Lake Zurich. Schneider Graphics put in a 22,000 square foot building and relocated from Bensonville, bringing over 20 full-time jobs. North Star Pickle occupied 13,000 square feet of vacant space, relocated from Mundelein, bringing 10 full-time jobs. Windy City Cigar relocated from Mount Prospect, occupying 7,000 square feet and employing 5 full-time employees. Scrubber City Janitorial Supply Company, occupying 10,000 square feet. Hydroflow Products occupied 7,000 square feet of vacant space and have 8 full-time employees. Black Belt Brewery, approved in 2014 and currently building out 7,000 square feet of space, will be the village's first craft beer manufacturer. They'll join Copper Fiddle as new innovative companies choosing to take up residence in Lake Zurich. In addition, Termex, Echo, Smalley Ring, Deer Marine have all recently expanding, choosing to stay in Lake Zurich instead of moving. Make sure I'm on the right page here. We feel that we have improved the culture in Lake Zurich and that we have created a highly positive environment for business investment, and that Lake Zurich is well positioned for continued economic development success. Recently, Lake Zurich was named #1 best cities for young families in Illinois, and the IEPA has commended Lake Zurich on the quality of its water supply. As another example, and this is a little off of the presentation, but I wanted to add this because we had a survey on it. You're all aware that 53-120 extension is in full vogue right now. I had, as long as I've been mayor, I have not had one phone call, one comment, one letter, one anything about 53-120. My esteemed colleague from Lake County, Mr. Taylor, he also, he's had some comments. I haven't had any. So I have to vote on a finance package that is going to be recommended to the tollway board in a couple of weeks, actually this week. And since I had nothing, we decided to put a survey out on 53-120. Those of you who voted on it can now see the results of that survey. The question was, do you believe that you would personally benefit from the proposed Illinois 53-120 extension project? And 80% of the people said yes, they would. I don't agree with that, but I have to vote what you want. Do you believe that the proposed extension project would benefit or harm the village of Lake Zurich? 80% of you said that it would benefit. Do you believe project costs should be shared by municipalities near the proposed extension? 60% of you said no, surprise. And 40% of you said yes, which was also a surprise. So now I can go to that meeting at least with some semblance of background. And I'm looking for Craig Taylor. Craig, you also had a survey, and your numbers were very similar to ours, I think. So at least we've got a good perspective on where we're going to go, where I'm going to go with that. So we appreciate all those people who did vote for it. So in conclusion, Lake Zurich has accomplished a long list of objective successes that have benefited the residents and businesses of our village. In the process, village government has become more sustainable, more transparent, more responsive, more fiscally stable, more resident-friendly, and more business-friendly. as we seek to address and solve the challenges that stand in our way. With the strategic guidance of our village board and the daily support of our top-notch, highly innovative and dedicated staff, as well as an awesome number of community volunteers who serve on boards and committees, several of who are here today, and assist in putting on a terrific array of special events, we will continue to work to solidify Lake Zurich's position as a top-rated suburb for young families and the regional hub of Southwest Lake County. I think we are well positioned for future successes, and thank you for coming tonight. So we built this event as a conversation with the community. So now this is the conversation part, where we take any input you have to offer and we'll answer any question that you want to ask. We have myself and Jason and all the department heads that are here, so they can answer a question, they will. And who wants to go first? Let's conversate. Sir.
What conversation is taking place Route 12 and 22 with the closed restaurants? Yeah, what conversation is taking place with the closed restaurant on Route 12 and 22, and also the old Kmart facility? Any prospects?
Well, there's two corners with closed restaurants. Which one are you talking about? Dan Peterson is here, and Dan, could you answer that question?
We continually talk with the property owners of both properties to try and encourage them to become more willing partners with the village to bring in new businesses. We regularly refer potential businesses to them, but at this point in time, neither of those two property owners are in a very sales-oriented or willing to work mood right now. The Omega Corner, which is the one I believe you're talking about, has very limited access and restrictions that makes it somewhat difficult for that owner to attract a viable restaurant user.
Here's an addendum to that question. I'm just a guy, paying the taxes here. I'm not an attorney. I'm a retired finance guy. But if there's an attorney around, isn't there a way, and I have heard this, it may cost us a little bit of money that we don't want to spend, but can we begin, it may be a bluff, but can we begin condemnation proceedings on these two pieces of property? I mean, they're an eyesore, and people we know that come into a lot of this village to visit, they say, my God, Omega's still there? Nobody knows how to handle the questions that come out with this. But, personally, I think these two pieces of property, I have heard that the Kmart property is owned by an East Coast venture capitalist firm, and they're just sitting on the money. They've got tons of money, and they don't want to, it's great for them. It's a write-off for them. But can we or can we not begin to issue, throw something their way saying, hey, we just as a heads up, we want you to know that we're issuing condemnation proceedings on certain piece of property in the village of Lake Zurich, and you are one among them. So I don't know what our legal situation is, but we need to do something like that.
Well, I think to answer your question, I think there's two thoughts there. One, can we? I think we can. Everyone in this room would probably agree that those properties, both of them they refer to, meet a definition of blight that people don't like to see. But the other part of that question then becomes a policy question as to, is that something we want to do as a village? And for that, Mayor, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but that would be something we'd have to talk about in a larger forum.
Well, and I think by policy, you're talking about taking those properties.
Right.
Yeah, this village board, at least, has made a promise to the residents and the businesses here in Lake Zurich that we wouldn't take anybody's property via eminent domain. And I think Jim Bedoin is here, and he'll agree that we, as a board, have decided that that's what the policy is for us. That notwithstanding, I think one of the things that we've started to do, and Dan, maybe you can answer this with the LaSalle Bank downtown. We started to do urge the property owner there to clean that up and make some veiled threats as to future action on that part with him. Is that accurate?
Property standards, codes to enforce minimum maintenance of those properties. And that's what we've done to keep the exteriors as much as we can up to date. But pursuing the Blake question and pursuing that, there's some very strict definitions that have to be met. And again, a policy statement from the board on what we're going to do. But yes, we do actively pursue those property owners to keep their exterior properties up to minimum standards.
What we'll do is we'll make a concerted effort to address your question in the very short term. We're as frustrated as you are with that.
It's unbelievable, on one hand, it's great when we have an awful lot of activities going on because it offers tremendous parking at no cost, and who knows what would happen if, somebody would come in there and that would kind of, destroy the parking situation, for instance, for the 4th of July certainly, for Rock the Block certainly, for all kinds of other activities. Incidentally, there are rumors that somebody's taking over the Kmart or running this Hobby Lobby. Is that true, or are these just a bunch
That's an old rumor. I don't know that it's, I don't know if there's anything to it anymore. Dan's shaking his head no.
Okay, no, okay, thank you very much.
Roy, we have a question down here.
Tom, I wonder if we could have an update on the tree, the ash borer removal process. Where does it get completed, and is there going to be a replanting part of that program?
Mike Rose here. I know that they were working, they took 3 weeks off around Christmas, and then they started back up cutting trees down again. We're ahead of the game, so.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mike Earl, I'm the Director of Community Services, and the good news is the bid prices came in favorable for the village. And what that means is we're able to take more trees down than we expected. So it looks like the game plan now is we're going to have all the trees down at the end of this, by the end of this calendar year, and then we can begin planting, thinking about it, and maybe doing some planting this year, but if not this year, definitely the following year. So a lot faster than we thought a few months ago.
And we do have a number of different programs in place. If you don't want to wait for the replanting and you'd like to plant your own tree, which is what I'm going to do, my tree is down.
Well, that's coming up at our board meeting on Wednesday, so that's why I asked that question. Because we do have some funds to help us at running.
Right.
I think, Roy, you have another question in the back there?
Mr. Mayor, question for you, please. Does Lake Zurich have any position on the situation occurring up in Midlothian Manor?
We don't have enough. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. With 14 residents moving into the vacant property at Midlothian Manor?
It's not. It's a piece of property that's outside the village limits, so it's not in Lake Zurich. We don't have anything to do with it. That's the only position that we have right at this point in time. We're not going to annex it.
Would you consider giving your opinion on whether they should come in or not?
Well,
I'm not being a jerk. I'm just asking a question.
I understand. I have some empathy for those people. I do a lot of emails from residents who had the very first sentence in their paragraph is that they are members of St. Francis, like I am, or members of St. Matthew's, and they give their time, and they give their money, and they give their clothes, and they work for special events at the churches, but I don't want any of those people living near me. And I don't know that I wouldn't feel the same way if it was there for me, but it's 14 people. 14 people with mental illnesses who are chronically unemployed and on medication. I think there should be some brotherly love in there someplace.
Thank you. Thank you. You're the first man that stood up and said that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I saw another hand over here someplace. Oh,
What's the status right now? What is going on? Is it in court?
I don't know. I know that there are some hearings coming up on it, and that there's a group of Lake Zurich and Hawthorne Woods and unincorporated Lake County residents who are, have banded together, and they have a lawyer, and, you know, once you get a lawyer, we don't want to talk to you, so.
Got a question over here.
Hello. First of all, I want to compliment the current village board. I think you guys are taking Lake Zurich in the right direction, being a resident here for 20 years. Second of all, it baffles me though, why over the last 12 years, why haven't we had a marketing plan? And where is our, what you called our downtown action plan? Didn't they have that vision back then?
I wasn't there then.
Wasn't that, I mean, I was at, when Susan Branding was the mayor, and she, right in front of everybody, she goes, well, why don't we come up with what we're looking for to do in Lake Zurich? I'm like, shouldn't you have done that like 6 years ago? She wasn't the mayor then, but.
It probably should have been done a long time ago, and perhaps there were efforts to do that, but we don't know where. So, I can't answer that question. Anybody else? Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, one of your 6 points for improving Lake Zurich was to beautify the downtown area. Are there any specific plans to do that, or can you?
Well, we're hoping that new construction will help beautify it, and there are plans for some of that to be happening, at least talking about it at this point in time. But we're not planning to do any more than I think than we've done right now. We'll maintain it. We've taken down the old buildings. I think it looks a lot better naked than it did with those ugly buildings on it. We put the Christmas tree lights back up on, for Christmas. That made it look better. There's only so much that we can do, and until we get some more construction down there and some more money to be spent on infrastructure, I think we're just going to maintain it and keep it that way until we get some buildings built. I wish there was more. If the governor takes $1 million from us, that's going to be less of that.
And as an add to that, Mayor, as new development comes into the village downtown, we'll work with those development projects and try to implement as many improvements as we can, pedestrian amenities, new sidewalks, street lighting, whatever it might be, so that the village isn't paying for it, but it's being done as part of those projects as they come in. Those are conversations we're having right now on an ongoing basis. I know there was more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering if both jewel stores will stay in town.
We hope so. Keep shopping at it. That's the key. You know, people asked me at the beginning when they had 2 stores, why would they do something like that? And I got to think that their marketing people are a lot smarter than I am. And they've done their due diligence, and they figure that they can make both stores work, and so far so good. I don't know if it's good, but so far they're still there. So you'd have to ask Jewel that.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Downtown. There have been several dozen studies on, we want this kind of development, we've got to have retail, we've got to have a restaurant, we've got to have this. One of the studies that was done some time ago, and I believe you sat in the audience with me when they did this, that all of the shopping that most people need is located within 1.5 to 2 miles of the downtown area. What kind of shops do you propose to put in the downtown that would be viable, given the fact that Long Grove is basically a retail desert at this point if you've driven through that area?
I don't propose to put very many shops down there. The marketplace is going to determine actually what's going to go down there. I've always felt that if this was such a desirable downtown, we'd have a line of people, a line of businesses, a line of developers there, putting in restaurants, bars, retail, everything that we want. We don't have it. We may end up with more residential than anything else, and with some small retail fill-in, but I think what's going to happen is that the demands in the marketplace are going to make those determinations at this point in time. Those were interesting plans, but some of those plans were a little bit aggressive.
Hi, I like being referred to as a shareholder, because really that's what we are. And in the 43 years that I've lived in the village, I have not seen this much excitement as has been created by the current administration. And I think it's fantastic. I think dangerous things to give an Irishman a mic. But I give you guys kudos, really, because some great things are going on here, and it's exciting. And again, you know, as a 43-year resident, I've been here for 43 years for a reason, because it's a great community. We have a lot of memories here, raised our kids here. And I went to school in the area, and you know, it's great. So you guys keep up the good work, administration, everybody. You know, this electrical aggregation, which probably isn't your problem. I was on the phone with these guys for a couple of weeks ago, wondering why my electric bill is the highest it's ever been, and we're using less electricity now. And aggregation was supposed to be terrific, but you know, the way they're putting the bills together, and who collects all of these taxes? The state of Illinois still collects the taxes and gives them back to you? Yeah, okay, so we went from a $10 village sticker to when I put all of my computer bills together, Edison, we're paying, several hundred. We're not too far from $1,000 a year, just in the taxes, utilities, all of the utilities. That includes, the computers and the rest of the stuff. But anyway, you guys keep up the good work. I think it's fantastic.
And thank you very much for the kind words. We all work hard to do it. And a lot of the credit goes to the staff here. So I know the staff has been much maligned, but this is a fantastic staff that we have working for us. So
yes, you're here.
Any kudos you give to us, go to them. So we appreciate it. Let me just correct you on the taxes.
We're here.
I think that tax, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but that's only on, our tax on homes is only on landlines, isn't it?
All communication,
Is it
on all communication.
Jody?
It's cable, phone.
We're talking about the village tax.
Yeah. the village.
Jody, do you know off the top of your head what
Jody, would be helping our finance director?
Yes, the telecommunications tax is on landlines and on your cell bill, but not on the data package portion of your cell bill.
Okay.
So it's not on the entire cell phone bill, it's just on your minutes for phone services.
And computers, though, right? And cable.
That would not be the telecom tax, there's a separate cable.
So it's not all our fault. We'll take our share though.
Yeah, I got a question for Mayor. You mentioned something that the state of Illinois is shafting us by $1 million, and it's going to affect our police department, fire department, and other things. Do you have any long-term or short-term plans to address that?
What we've done is we've put together, the trustees and myself and every municipality almost in the state of Illinois has bombarded the governor's office with a request not to do this. It's $1 million. I don't know what $1 million equates to generically in the village of Lake Zurich, but it could be 10 or 12 police officers if we went that way, or 10 or 12 firemen, or not plowing the streets when it snows. I don't know exactly what $1 million gets to, but we'll figure that out and put that on the website. But no, to answer your question, nothing specific at this point.
Just like to congratulate, not like Chicago, but snow plowing was excellent. And that heavy snow you guys had with the department.
Mike Earl, you can thank Mike Earl and his boys for that. Nice job, Mike.
And his boys. Yes, they did a great job.
Yes, sir.
I don't need the mic. So tonight you talked about a lot of different things. Probably the biggest challenge, it sounds like, is Springfield. But outside of that, if I just kind of sum up some of the high points, so we're AAA bond rated, we're going to deliver a balanced budget. Most of our roads are in good shape. The restructuring of TIF is going to save us somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million. We made a statement that good infrastructure is the key to the quality of life in Lake Zurich. So what are the infrastructure challenges that are out there that that aren't being met and are hanging in the balance?
Well, one of them is your backyard. And I don't mean that funny, I mean it's literally in your backyard.
As long as it's not my basement.
If it stays in the backyard, we don't mind.
Mike, can you answer that question? The infrastructure needs that we have right now?
Well, we do have an aged infrastructure. We know that we need to make an investment in our water mains and in our sewer systems, point repairs, sewer lining, as well as probably complete repair of some of our water mains. We know that, this particular year, the village manager has asked us to take a hard look at our water system. We know that we're losing a significant percentage of our water revenue because it's unrecorded. It's being put out, but we're not receiving the revenue for a significant percentage of water. So we know that we need to pay attention to our water infrastructure. What that means is perhaps an added emphasis on replacement of water meters, as well as perhaps some new water meters as well.
And I'll only add to that a little bit that the pavement management program that I referenced, we put in $1.4 roughly million in 2014 towards road resurfacing, $2 million planned for 2015 for road resurfacing. But the program and the analysis that was done is in order to maintain our streets at the level that we enjoy them at now, the investment needs to be about $2 or $2.2 million a year. So we haven't been investing those kind of dollars over the last 5-6 years. Next year we'll start, but it's going to be the challenge is going to be to maintain that level of funding going forward.
And
So
I think I asked the question from a perspective of, I mean, we talked about all these good things and we're kind of quickly moving past some of the stuff that's out there. So this village needs to understand that we've got a funding problem in the future. I mean, you talked about water, you talked about streets. We're sitting here crying about stormwater. I mean, we can't just go, oh, okay, this stuff's all going to make itself all right. It's not, unless we start trying to do something.
I would agree.
We need to figure out what we're doing with stormwater. You talked about sewer system, but our sewer systems aren't our stormwater management system, as I've been told. Is that correct? So nothing that you mentioned as far as what needs to be fixed is even beginning to look at the 19 homes that took in feet of water. 9 feet of water went into my home. What are we doing to fix that? And none of that is our fault. That is a village infrastructure problem that was caused by overdevelopment. So what are we doing to move forward with that problem? I understand that sewers, but you have nothing in your budget that actually is allocated for stormwater management, and nothing that's looking towards how are we going to manage stormwater management in the future. We've expanded this village, and we've done nothing to accommodate the stormwater management problems.
We have put, as you know, Mary, the plan together that the engineering plan and design for the project. Exactly, it's a plan. It's not the implementation part, and we've talked about that. It's just the plan. And the question is to try to find ways to fund it. And what we've done is we've looked at different funding options. We proposed the home rule referendum in November, which didn't go forward. I understand that from the community, but there were several options, funding options within home rule that authority that would have allowed us to tackle that project. Didn't happen. Then we looked at a grant from the EPA. That grant was $250-some thousand grant that we applied for. Pete Storr, our village engineer, spent an incredible amount of time putting the application together for that. And unfortunately, we were denied. So those are things that we're still trying to do. We're going to continue to look for funding mechanisms to solve this problem. I don't have one I can tell you right now, but it doesn't mean we're not going to stop looking.
Yeah, I have a follow-up to that, and I know Jason and I have been talking a little bit offline, but I think what the village isn't aware that that particular flood, and this is according to a third-party study, there were 800 parcels within the village that contributed to that problem. So unfortunately, it's what I have a hard time with is I don't think most people know about it. And I want the village to start taking the discussion to those 800 different parcels and saying, we have a collective problem. Tell me how we are going to fix this collective problem, instead of saying, well, it's just 20 homes. Well, no, it's not 20 homes, it's 800 that are contributing to this problem. So collectively, I'm looking for the village to start taking the lead and say, maybe someone has a better idea out there. Maybe those 800 have an idea that they can bring to the table. But right now, there's been no discussions with them. And people are generally unaware of this problem. And it's a big problem. And I think something through even the benchmarks and having a meeting with those 800 would be a good start.
Yeah, we can definitely put more information out on our benchmarks. Like I mentioned, it's a good tool to get information out there in front of people. But We've talked about it, during our home rule discussions, the need for funding for infrastructure. And I know specifically that I cited on a number of occasions this very project and what part of the reason why we didn't fund it. Now, it doesn't mean we're done, and I'm not suggesting that, but we have been working hard to try to find a financial solution to the problem. We have the engineering solution, we need the financial solution.
I think he's got a good point, though. I think it's time for us to identify those 800 people and see if they would like to share your pain with them. They may not have flooded, they may have flooded, but it's a significant...
But I guess, why does it have to be?
Let me just finish. I let you talk. If you want to bring those 800 people into play, I think that's a good idea. Just take a note on that.
Who are the 800 residents?
It goes all the way up through Old Mill Grove, even all the way across to the 7-Eleven.
And Bristol Trails has nothing to do with it?
And Bristol Trail, it's part of Bristol, yeah, I mean, it's huge.
We know pretty much the areas that are involved here, and we'll just take those areas and we'll identify it and contact those people and those residents and see if we can move forward.
Unfortunately, Tom, what you're gonna find is the same thing you see on your, on your 53.
It answers the question that Don's making, so we'll take that effort.
I wanna be part of it, but I don't wanna pay for it.
I understand.
Right, and how fair is that? I mean, at some point, where do you say, it's everybody's problem, all 800 people's problem, you're sending the water downstream?
It's really a village problem, though.
It is.
It's not, don't isolate 800. Old Mill has been around for almost, they're coming up to half a century now.
Right.
And I don't know how we can blame the current administration for something that may or may not have been overlooked by administrations going back 3 or 4 prior administrations.
Well, Frank, I don't think that Mary is blaming the current administration. I think she's blaming the process in general over the years. I just happen to be here at the time.
I think we were gonna talk administration, thank God we have the current administration and not the one before was the problem.
And every prior administration before that one.
Yeah.
But as I pointed out in one of the slides, I mean, you made the point exactly, Mary. 41 miles of the 80 miles of streets we have been added in the last 30 years. That's not a problem that any one individual or any person created. It's just something that has been created over time, and beyond the village's boundaries, a lot of development has occurred. So it's a problem that we have to find a solution to, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and in the middle of all this, we had a bug come in that cost us $3 million to take down trees and plant trees. So there's always something. Larry?
Aside from the dollars that you're talking about, give us an idea of what engineering has come up with to solve the problem in that area. I mean, those that don't live in that area, we have very little information, if any, on it.
We have a report that was developed by Manhart and Associates, our village engineer. And Mike Earl, is our report on our website? Is that report on our website? Do you know?
I'm sorry, I don't know offhand.
If it's not, we can put it on our website. But basically, the issue is, if you're not familiar with it, in the Cedar Creek neighborhood, there's a number of properties, 800 some odd properties that drain to a detention basin. And when it rains heavily, like it did in 2013, that basin fills up and spills into the neighborhood and into folks' homes around there. And so that's the issue we're dealing with. And we have an engineering solution. The engineering solution costs $3 million.
What is the solution?
To expand the detention basin both at that location and then upstream of it.
And where is that basin that you're talking about? Is that at Quantum?
No.
No, it's difficult without a map. We're talking Bristol Trails.
Bristol Trails don't have no.
Stone and Thistle?
Stone and Thistle, there, that area. Question over here.
Yeah, I live in Bristol Trails, and most of the new construction includes Cedar Creek in that 30 years. Bristol Trails has a retention area that was Park Place that was holding a lot of water, and the village, in its infinite wisdom, put a lot of that under concrete, took some of the level ground of the cold water, built a mound, which things now run off of. So the village has contributed in part of this by putting in infrastructure to meet, quote, park needs that now put the retention area and took away from that water retention that would have soaked in and moved. In the 28 years I've lived here, I've seen that area flood once or twice. since you guys have put in that retention, or moved the retention area, or put in the pavement, et cetera, it's now flooded a few more times, and it's flooded worse. It runs over much more frequently. Part of this is a long-term village plan. Some of these homes should have been looked at better. Some of them were allowed to be built in low areas, but that's past areas, that's past issues. But again, the village plays part of this in what you do when you reorganize things and how you use the land that is a retention area when you repurpose it and put it under pavement.
Sorry, I just wanted to follow up. The reason I'm pushing again for information to community is home rule got shot down, but had those 800 parcels known about this, perhaps that would not have gotten shut down. If they would have understood it's a shared responsibility that we need to come to a collective solution. So again, I'm trying to push you guys to do that.
All right, we'll talk offline. I know that you and I have a conversation scheduled. We'll talk about how we can get more information about that.
Any more questions, input, suggestions? No yawning. Yes, sir.
I'm aware that the Village of Lake Zurich has made a provision in their zoning code for medical marijuana dispensaries in Lake Zurich. With all the great things that we've got going on in our town right now, and such a large, I guess, emphasis on residential, we're the highly rated place to raise a family and stuff like that. My question is, why do we want that type of business in our town?
I'm not sure that we want it. I think the bigger issue is can we keep it out? I don't believe that we can with our current zoning laws keep it out. We can control where it goes, which is why it can only go, I think, in an industrial park. Is that right? Yeah, so it's in a, that's where it is. I mean, if it ever comes here, we don't know if it's ever going to come here. There were only 3 licenses given out, and we had had conversations with one of the potential license holders, and suggested that if they were interested, that they should go look at the properties available in the industrial park. That's where it would go. And we haven't heard, have we heard back from them?
No, not yet.
We haven't heard back from them. I think you're against that, huh?
As you say, over, yeah.
Anything else?
Lack of your transparency.
Thanks for coming, appreciate it. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, anybody on the staff, Jason, myself, department heads, we've got any input, suggestions, we're more than happy to listen. We'll do this again next year. I think this was a good turnout. Those who were not watching the press conference. The whole thing will be taped and on the website. It's being videotaped as we speak. So I don't know when that will be. Tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming.